I am going to prep I did have another comic blow up this week, so I'll be sure to discuss that before we really get into workshop stuff here today. But it's gonna be a fun getting back into things for me. So this will be good, and I'm excited to see everyone who comes in and joins. Thank you all so much for popping in here.
All right. Well, I have started the event. For some reason, it
Awesome.
didn't have the start event button on the stage, so I had to do it roundabout from the events menu.
Yeah. I personally, whenever I was, kind of preparing any kind of like comic or anything that's going to be a produced thing, it's not just like a generated image, right? um More often than not, I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do, but then there'll be something that comes up when I'm generating that completely derails like my idea. This is an example of that actually. We'll get into this thing here. Once we'll let a couple more people come on in here, and then we'll start the comic stream here. So in VC text, you'll be able to chat with me. So I'll just show you guys what that looks like here. So inside of VC text, you can chat back and forth with us as we stream, but also inside of VC create, we'll be prompting things that are relevant to making comics or storytelling. Um, at least for me, the way that I kind of try to do this is we're going to throw out a bunch of prompts that I use to make the comic, and then we can kind of create spin-offs and stuff. So I do want to mention that usernames get cut off here. So Kinky will be occasionally chiming in to kind of get your all's questions and all that sort of stuff. This is a setting inside of Discord to make sure that your all's usernames don't get blasted on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, awesome. Okay, it's good to see everybody here. Thank you so much for coming. Um, so what I'm gonna do, and I figure we're good to get started here. But what I'm gonna do is pull up my comic here. This was close to like 6,500 upvotes, which is pretty high for my stuff. A lot of generative stuff on Reddit doesn't really get a lot of positive attention because, frankly, it's pretty low effort just to generate an image and post it on a subreddit. That's partly why some people get really frustrated when they make something that would normally be like really something to show off, but then you say it's generated and suddenly people don't have any interest in it anymore. It's a common issue because being able to see human authorship, right, is very frustrating for people right now. They can't. A lot of people can't. And even like with the stuff that I make and whatnot, I try my best to reintroduce as much human authorship as possible. Whether it's, I don't use ChatGPT. I don't use any of the writing assistants or anything like that. So I know that at least my dialogue is completely human, But with this comic in particular, I um I had a lot of fun with this because we started off with the same Sage prompts that I used to generate Sage and Michael, and that is done with just the funny webcomics prompt. Um, and that's what we did last time. We went about 2 weeks ago. We did funny webcomics, and we just kind of deep dived also into 1930s expressionism, which was a lot of fun. I still haven't done any of the video renders that I wanted to do from that, but um, when it comes to making these sort of like comics, though, they're honestly actually storyboards. They're storyboards for a film that doesn't exist. So like when I was setting up Michael and Sage talking to each other, I was using film terminology in order to get the camera angles and get the kind of two shots that I wanted from it. If you just say give me a two shot, it's not going to understand anything about what your intent is there. Instead, what I did was I asked for like the backs of heads, right? And then constructed each panel um basically as a derivative of the original web comic result from the prompts. So we're going to get into all that here in a minute, but the idea that completely derailed me was actually the just the results of prompting Cat Judge. The black cat in the middle there is the result of me deep diving into a prompt called Cat Judge, and I don't know why that imagery is just so funny to me, but like the fully like business suit or tuxedo outfits on cats is really funny to me. So I have like 100 results. Sorry, I have like 100 results of me like deep diving into cat judges. But the cat on the left though, the gray cat, that was me prompting into Cat Evangelion. So I was calling it Cat Evangelion, and surprisingly that worked really well as well. So we'll run a couple of Evangelion spoof prompts with cats and see what we get today. But I'll just kind of end on noting with this comic in particular. Um, this is entirely constructed, especially the last page here, to where the all the prompts only featured one cat in every one of them. The only exception to that was actually the scientist cats, which is the same cat side by side, but I recolored one of them to match the other. So traditional solutions is really how you finalize these and how you make them look human. You know what I mean? So we will be using Photoshop to be able to construct all these, but you'll be really surprised how far you can go with just in painting in Midjourney now, because you'll be able to say like, okay, the white borders on the panels and stuff, you can just in paint a panel edge and then zoom out, and suddenly you have a ton more comic panels that are all just predicted from Midjourney. So, all right. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna hop on over to VC Create over here, and I'm just gonna blast out a couple of these and see if anybody wants to kind of riff on them and whatnot. So let's see here. I'm gonna use a command called repeat. And repeat is honestly a pretty dangerous command. Like you really don't want to use it unless you are, pretty darn sure that the results you get are what you want, because it is going to in fast mode. So it's gonna cost you some hours, um, or at least partially an hour or whatever, to be able to add to basically run the same prompt multiple times at the same time. Okay, so we're gonna do webcomic. But let's start with the cat judge one because it's funny to me. So we'll do funny webcomic, and then cat judge, and I'm just gonna go with that as is. To first confirm it, just to confirm that that's what we want to do. If we don't see panels and stuff, we can either rerun it or put more emphasis on the panels themselves. But what I've noticed about Cat Judge in particular is that it keeps putting like cats in robes and cats in like fancy outfits and stuff. So we're definitely getting some panels on the last one here. So I think I'm gonna run a repeat on this, but I just want to emphasize just how funny some of these results can be to see. Cat, and you can hear my cat actually screaming at me through the door, which I'm going to let her in a minute. But let's run a repeat really quick on this. And she's very upset. She is almost 20 years old and lets me know it every day. So let's go ahead and run a repeat. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to do this? Right? I'm going to say yes. And we'll just see. This is what this is going to do is it's going to generate 40 web comics about cat judges, like all at the same time. So I'll let you guys kind of dig through these and see if there's any that make you laugh, and if they do, upres them. Right, like hit the upres button on it, because the ones that make you all laugh, we are going to probably edit and manipulate them. Now we can put anything. I put judge in there because it always gives like a courtroom and a kind of like flat composition. It's not very chaotic, but at least this way we can kind of make a comic together about cats that is like an oddly serious situation, like going to court, right? So I'm excited to see your all's ideas. I'll give you guys a minute to kind of dig through these.
Victor's cat was judging him.
Yes, very much so.
Truth is
She
all
she
judges of some
she
variety.
she is doing the thing where if I open the door, she doesn't want to actually come inside and is just screaming at me. Yeah, hi, can you come through the door? She doesn't want to come through the door.
I think it's really cute, actually.
Oh God. Yeah. No, I'll let her continue to just scream in the hallway for a minute because now she's screaming at my wife. Okay. So all right. I should be back. Yeah. All right. I'm already seeing you guys upresing a couple of these, which is great. What we're gonna do when after I stop seeing this upresing and updating on me, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna in paint as much as we can because one of the things that's really powerful about in painting is not only can you do everything inside of Midjourney now, but you're relying on the same mechanical mind to like expand these ideas. So unlike swapping over to a different program like Photoshop, right? As soon as you bring an image into Photoshop, it doesn't have any like context to outside of the image itself. While with Midjourney, if we expand on any of these comics, it's going to keep the style. It's going to keep a lot of the continuity that we expect because it is basically from the same imagination. You know, you're going back to the original author to be able to make these. So it's definitely something that when we get into this, we can find a couple of kind of like good nugget ideas out of this. Like I love the fact that like it kind of looks like he's holding the mic and he's adjusting it as opposed to the gavel, but like there could be some fun stuff we can do just by expanding on some of these. These oh wow, that is a serious cat face right here. I do like the oddly judgmental ones, honestly, because every cat is super judgmental. So let's see here. Okay, cool. So what I'm gonna do is let's actually grab this one, and just to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about when it comes to zooming and stuff, we're gonna zoom out 2 times, and kind of show you all what happens when we say, hey, I like this comic, but what if we continued it? You know, and so not just with zoom out, but we can also use the pans. So let's pan up, but this time, we could leave it as is, which is fine, or we can pan down and say the actual direction of what we want this comic to be. So for this one, we it's always good when I click on a picture and it makes me giggle like instantly. So like this cat like coming up to this weird looking mic thing here, we could easily have a premise of like maybe the double doors open or something like that at the top, or just some sort of entry for this cat, and he's going to give a speech or something like that. What we can do for that is we can actually apply some direction to it. So we can say like entering the court, and then we'll see if that influences it enough to be able to do it. Now we can go even farther. We can say a cat judge entering the court or anything. But at least the way that I do it is I try my best to use as few words as possible because it creates the most amount of diversity out of my results. Now we can get into codes and all that stuff to push it even farther, but I really my trick is I use a lot of like pronouns, like I'll use him and her more often than any other descriptor, just so that we can kind of get as diverse or interesting results as we can. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna load up one of the pans that we did. This one is the entering the court. The original comic itself is actually just the it is just the bottom two panels on each four of these results, right? So none of them, the cat is really coming into the frame, but on the top left, we definitely see like a welcoming or a hello, and then on the top left of this one, he looks like he's walking to the stage, like he's like have you ever seen a cat like standing up on its hind legs and it tries to like get something and it just kind of waddles, that's what's making me laugh about this third result here because frankly like the cat would totally have his arms splayed out all trying to cautiously grabbed the thing in front of him. He was walking like a person, so this is funny to me. But that's just with pans. If we now go up to the zoom here, this is, I believe, one of the zooms. Yeah, so this is one of the zooms, and you can see that although the center of the comic is the same, it was the and I'm just going to shrink this down here so it's a little more obvious. Okay, I'll just show half of them at a time here. So the original comic is just the middle section of it, but by doing a zoom, we now have a much like higher res, like bigger version of the cats, you know? So it lets us kind of explore really interesting panel layouts. That's, I think that's the thing that's most interesting to me is like, for example, like the bottom of the stage here is, or sorry, of the court itself is acting as a page break, and that is some really unique sort of ideas that I probably wouldn't have come up with on their own. So if we kind of just keep going through some of these here, like I will say that a lot of them kind of look like monks. You know what I mean? Like it does have that it does have that effect when we start doing the cat judge thing a lot, but I really do dig some of these results here. But the cats in the white lab coats for the fusion was entirely just me messing around with zooms and pans until I found the poses that I really liked. There's one on here that is already making me laugh, which is this third one here, and I'll point it out here. And the reason why is because whenever we get these forced perspectives, right, where it's clearly deriving it from some kind of like humor that I don't know where, you know, where it's from, it's this one right here. I'm laughing at the bottom cat right here, where it's just, it kind of seems like he's being accused of something in court and he just doesn't care about, you know, the legal system at all. He just seems kind of thuggish, and it's just funny to me. I really like the idea of a hard cat. That's funny. So okay, all right. I'm distracting myself a bit with this one, but why is there a guy just giving me a thumbs up here? Can someone explain that to me real quick?
I think this is someone that doesn't understand the channel.
I appreciate, as someone who consumes internet comment etiquette, okay? Anything with old men stock photos is hilarious to me. I'll just leave it at that. You can go look that up if you want. But uh like even just this, like where it's like, oh yeah, no, my lawyer is actually a giant cat, and then the entire court just starts fawning over the giant cat, and he ends up winning the court case. Like that's the level of dumb that I like on this. This is a good one. Um, I like the human character in it. It's just pretty fun to see the like kind of pompadour sort of hair and whatnot. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So now that we've done a couple of these here, um, they really have no direction. We've only told it that it needs to be a judge who's a cat. You know what I mean? So you know, we can go a little more nuts with this. This is pretty tame in terms of the results, but okay, okay, they do understand what's going on here because they're starting to do image blends with cats. And
No, that was
okay.
me.
That was you. Thank you for this. It's a complete, yes. I especially like this one. I'm just gonna upres it really quick because it's making me laugh pretty good. This where he's just like, "Good job, cat," and he's like, "Yeah, I did a good job." He's like a little smiling cat. This is too funny to me. I like this one a lot. I will say, feel free, anybody that is watching this and whatnot, feel free to dig into the images. You know, do any sort of variations or remixes or anything you want with these. But if you do, be sure to share them with me somehow, whether it's you're tagging me or whatever. You share them in you know, in VC Create too and whatnot. I just really, what I do after these streams is I actually go through and I check out every image that people generate and see what, you know, what's worth it to kind of talk about next time we're on my Discord. So is pretty cool. Um, but what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna punch this up a little bit. We're gonna try the Evangelion one here because I don't really know how into anime and all this stuff people here are. I think a lot of people are kind of confused when I'm like, okay, let's do some comics here, and then everything is like Niji or anime based, when there's a lot of like Western minimalism fans in general, like a lot of folks that just like Saturday morning cartoons and stuff. um like that's really where we have to do a bit of a balance here, because Neji gives us great results, but it's incredibly Eastern, like it's incredibly derivative to anime itself. So I want to make sure that the stuff we make here today is pretty broad and lets us be able to explore stuff outside of Neji. But I do want to run this prompt here because sometimes we get giant robot cats, and that's pretty fun. So I'm just gonna do funny webcomic. Hey, look, there's Victor. So we're gonna get into character continuity again. I feel like I'm gonna have to restart most of my stream stuff because the character continuity is a pretty complex topic to get into. Like, how do you inject a character? How do you save a character into Midjourney? And I recently updated my tutorial to include the saving side of things. So that we'll dig into that a bit too. But I'm gonna start off with doing funny webcomic, and then Cat Evangelion, and let's just see if we get anything interesting just off of that. But I I will say that we might need to like really push the fact that we're trying to replicate um like the thing about Cat Vangelion, right? Like specifically this prompt here is we start to get into like really um almost like avant-garde sort of territory, because I think what it's looking at is the a lot of the ending sequence of the Evangelion like movies, right? And so there's a lot of red, there's a lot of like faces buried in the sand and all sorts of other imagery that evokes Evangelion. But to me, I get like a cat cult sort of vibe from this prompt here. So I do have fun with it. Now what's this one? Bankai. Nice. Nice. Oh, I like that. I like the cat with the swords. Or the sword. That's pretty rad. There's you guys can go kind of nuts with this because the funny webcomic prompt really encourages the Western art style. It really encourages the funny pages, right, from the backside of the Sunday mags and stuff. So um yeah, I definitely enjoy running these sort of prompts and seeing what sort of funny little quirks and jokes we can make out of these. So we'll dig through that for a bit and let you guys kind of see the results of this. But I do really quickly want to dig into some of the stuff that we had also made before, because I we're having fun with rather jokey Western comics, but I want to show you guys also the what I'm calling an exquisite prompt. This was a pretty fun sort of collab where I got a message in my inbox. It was essentially half of a comic already done, right? So what I did, and I'm just gonna hop myself back over to the couch here while you guys are exploring these awesome comics with robot cats. Okay, all right. Like, this is what I'm so excited about, is that I can like it only takes a couple of minutes for me to derail myself on some idea to explain to you guys, and then I come back to my idea, and you guys have like completely fleshed out some sort of funny thing to explore. I love the third one here with the cat armor and all that kind of stuff. I'm definitely getting some you know uh some Cartoon Network vibes out of that one, so that's fun. um but what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna hop myself back over to the couch. Okay, all right. So I've got the first two pages up here. So I'm curious to hear from people, especially from the non kind of artists and folks, people who didn't grow up drawing or anything like that. Do you all know what an exquisite corpse is? It's kind of a gross phrase, honestly. But an exquisite corpse is when you take a piece of paper and then you fold it however many ways there are players. So say like you're with a buddy with like two buddies and you want to play the game, then you're going to fold the piece of paper into three pieces, okay? And then basically you draw on one segment of the page, fold it over so that only a little bit of it's seen, and then you go to the next page and you give it to the next person. So they continue to drawing. And so what by the time the game is over and everyone has contributed to the drawing, you unfold it and you see the final result. Usually it's like some crazy, like half human, half lion, whatever it ends up being. My one of my wife's exquisite corpses from high school is actually still in our house somewhere, and I remember she specifically drew this extremely high effort lion on the top of it, and then it's just like a stick figure body on below it, and it still makes me laugh when I think about it. Well, um, yeah, it's a good one. The thing about exquisite corpse though is that we can actually extend this into AI. What you're seeing here, these first two pages, outside of the text, I didn't really do. They ended up in my inbox about a week ago, and I was like, holy crap! Someone I took not only my character but made their own character, and then had us like interacting with each other. Okay. I thought this was super cool. It honestly, it's been something that I've been looking forward to for a while to see somebody who read through my tutorial and went, okay, not only can I make original characters, but I'm going to punch the guy who made it, who made the tutorial. I think that is such a fun idea. So, the kind of dialogue that I was going for here, and I'll open the other pages here in a minute. But the dialogue that I was going for here was basically like whatever JoJo Bizarre Adventure did for classic rock is what I want to do for art history. Okay. So like um at least the big thing for me is that like um there's all sorts of like fun technical terminology that everyone misses because they keep prompting things like Disney and Marvel and all sorts of other properties, and they never see it because they're always making something that's hyper or otherwise objectively derivative. Everything you see from my comics is subjectively derivative, as in I'm not using specific properties unless I want to pay homage to something, so let's go ahead and grab the other two pages here. I know that with my stream and stuff, it can be a little tight to see some things. I'll post a link to the full comic here as well, so that if you want to kind of take your time to read this, you're welcome to. Um, the main thing to kind of pull out of this is that there's a level of construction here that I'm really proud of, honestly. I people don't really know what it takes or what goes into making these sort of like hyperactive or just uh very motion heavy comics. What it takes is understanding form and structure, as well as just how mangas and comic books tell visually, stories visually, without using words. um Almost all of the emotion lines and everything else that's inside of this comic is drawn. I'm going over with these and drawing it. But what I think the thing that I had the most fun with this, however, was just where the ideas flowed out from my head because I received half the comic in an inbox, and it was just like, yes, yes, I want to finish this, and it took me like 2 days to like really go through this. But I want to point out one part here. Let me first get the link so that if people do want to check this out, they're welcome to. Unlike my other comics, this one gets panned. Like you're not gonna see a bunch of upvotes for it, and it's for one very, very important reason. It's highly generated. Generated comics don't really do well on Reddit. But what they uh, what they do, however, is at least for me, it starts to build exposure to what what AI literacy really is, like where you're able to easily tell, oh, okay, this is where we're at with AI technology. There isn't I, I I'll put it like this. I think my comics are one of the major reasons why the artists that post here stop making fun of hands. Like stop making fun of AI hands, because the work that I do with a couple of the creatives here have been entirely emphasizing on how how backwards or how unproductive that sort of language or dialogue is when you basically say AI is getting worse. If you tell people that, you're literally putting disinformation out there. You're literally putting out misinformation in order to like make people think that everything's kind of not getting to a level or quality that we are quickly learning is getting to production quality. Like I would be able to send this comic to a graphic novelist and get this printed, and it would look amazing if we did. That's where we're at with the technology. So there's a little bit of Photoshop in painting as well that was done in order to kind of clean up a few things. But I want to emphasize one particular part here, because this is going to be really important for people that want to like kind of take comic storytelling to the next level with Midjourney. Um, you'll notice that in this last panel here, where the cat boy is kicking Victor in the face. The thing about this last panel is that the prompts that I used was all breakdancing prompts. What I found out was when I really wanted to make someone look like they were getting thrown in the air, if you just say, "Hey, make I want someone thrown in the air," they're gonna kind of look like they floated, like they're weightless, right? I didn't want them to look weightless. I wanted them to have a sense of like impact to their movement. I wanted it to be clear that the anatomy was getting stretched or pulled in a certain way. So for this comic, what I did was I used breakdancing, particularly falling while breakdancing. Like just the phrase falling while breakdancing is how I made all three of Victor's falling poses here. So yeah, I know, right? Breakdancing moves is actually really clutch for this. So like on the previous panel, right, where the cat boy kicks Victor in the face, this is entirely me saying I want to do a breakdancing handstand. Okay, breakdancing handstand, and it did all of this like mostly on its own. I'm gonna zoom in just a little more. It did like all of that, the kick going out and the hand planted to the ground. The only thing I corrected out of this entire prompt was I added a mouth, because there was no mouth on the character when it generated, and the shoe was flipped. It was inverted. It had it was a black shoe with a white sole when the character has a white like white feet. Which, by the way, I never got to finish this joke because I felt like the comic was long enough. But I really wanna have Victor look at him and go, oh, he's got little cute white booties on, like little white booties, and just because the fact that he has white sneakers and is otherwise completely kind of gothy, black dark hooded character is funny to me. The idea that he's wearing just white tennis sneakers. Um, the so yeah, I would recommend that if you guys want to make this kind of capoeira sort of fighting stuff, you definitely want to use breakdancing in order to make that kind of angular form. You'll notice though, and I'll just kind of zoom in a little bit, zoom out a little bit here. You'll notice that the reason I use the word cubist here, like cubist catboy kick, was because this is actually a cubist prompt. I am trying to force a angular structure from the character that also helps promote the sharp lines, like the sharp shape. Like if you notice the foot here, how it has kind of an L shape to it. That I'm not really sure why it made the foot like that specifically, but it inspired me that should be an impact or a kick there. But when it comes to the cubist handstand prompt here, what's cubist about this is the fact the character's face is now very angular, and the hair, in the ears are now very clearly angular, and even like the because if you don't know what cubism is, it's Picasso's that's he's not the only one, but he's the one who's most famous for it. And it's all about breaking down anatomy into simple geometric forms, right? And the those geometric forms are on display here. The particularly in the sleeves of the hoodie, they're kind of triangles. Like they're just kind of a bell-shaped triangle. Even the kind of flatness of the hands and stuff kind of reminds me of cubism. Um, the only manual change out of all these is the tail. The tail was in the completely wrong position when it came to the original output. So I moved the tail up and it's almost like a question mark, right? Like sitting up there. So that's fun. And then that to me, like just seeing this level of quality that we're able to pull out of Midjourney is just amazing. Like I said, all the construction is done in Photoshop, but uh, it's just awesome. I really do dig this. All right, cool. I'm gonna mute these two here. So the blue period. I will say that when it comes to like deriving or teaching art history in particular, I really want to dig into the idea that we're going to essentially be teaching people what these terminologies through history are, because like I at least for me, I saw what JoJo did for classic rock in a way that that was like really interactive. Like I've never seen it, like the Gen Zers who let me just put it this way. I don't know too much about the show, right? But the f- I, the fact that they have a bunch of bands that I recognize inside of the show and people keep talking about them like as if like they're like fond things, it makes me just feel both old and excited whenever I see that online. So yeah, it is pretty fun to kind of see people using the terminology, or sorry, the band names, and then using them as like power moves or character names, right? So let's just do that with anime, and then teach a bunch of people what like chiaroscuro is, by having a character that attacks entirely with like dark shading or some sort of singular point of light, like stuff like that. I feel like I'm going to explore that later on. Probably not in this stream, but I definitely want to dig into that. I definitely recommend that if you're going to get into this stuff, if you're going to get into trying to tell stories and entertainment, we're talking about comics today mostly, but if you're going to get into all that stuff, I just highly recommend that the stuff that you get into should be diverse. Like you should really try to always challenge yourself and do something different. It's very easy to get stuck in a particular rut or a particular genre or phrasing, because you're just using words, right? You're just writing stuff into prompts. And so I know that there's like ways you can use ChatGPT to like randomize your prompts or otherwise make your prompts more complex. That's fine and dandy, but the thing is that you really need to understand the terms. Like you really need to understand why certain phrases and stuff promotes imagery in a different way. Um, yeah, prompt battles will make you smarter. They will. They will. There's a massive misconception about AI imagery. I'll just tell you guys right now. The misconception is that it makes you worse or it makes you lazier. Um, that to me, it's the exact opposite. You're constantly exposing yourself to new things if you are especially if you're doing it as a community effort, right? Where you're seeing what everyone else is doing and you're seeing what prompts work well for them. These aren't just like gobbledygook words that don't make sense. You know what I mean? They have reasons why they're being used. I think the only time that I ever got to talk on office hours with David, I asked him about the importance of the information inside of images. That basically he was like, well, no, literature is so much more powerful because we have so much of it that we can base off of. There's so much value to the relationship of words, and to the point where I gave him an analogy, which was I see AI imagery as like a plinko machine, right, where you drop a ball at the top and you watch it hit all the pegs and then it falls to the bottom. If you keep dropping the ball in the same place, you start to see a pattern, and that pattern can be exploited so that you can make the thing you're looking to make. And so oftentimes, just re-rolling the same prompt 3 or 4 times really lets you know like what's the range of it, or maybe if there's an outlier that you didn't expect. Um, and it, to me, that's more fun than like trying to like dig into seed codes and everything like that. I more have a lot more fun exploring also chaos in order to super diversify my results. But it really just comes down to my intent. If I want something, if I want to do like a Family Guy sort of like spin-off, or like random joke, then I'll probably more likely run chaos to kind of get myself into a really weird space. Um, these little patterns are neat, but they don't really teach you anything when it comes to like the terminologies and stuff. That comes from people. That comes from the activities of people online. So yeah, I think prompt battles will definitely make people smarter and frankly more creative. Like I would have never thought to use breakdancing as a prompt start in order to make characters falling over and looking like they're getting hurt and stuff. But when I think about it, it makes total sense because, like, think about like a moment in time, a photo or a frame of someone doing a breakdance. It also looks like just like you could easily just put Dragon Ball Z hair on the character and suddenly they look like they make sense. You know what I mean? In an anime. It's little things like that, weird sort of overlays and parallels that
Yeah.
that work.
Prompt battles definitely put you in a spot that you would never expect to be in at least once or twice a game. Like things that you wouldn't prompt normally, and then you always
Hmm.
learn something. It's really interesting, but I appreciate that shout out, Zamsta.
Yeah,
If
I,
you haven't
I,
been, then come this Sunday.
yeah. Every Sunday you guys are doing the prompt battles, which is super fun. It's basically like a challenge run, like where everyone is like prompting stuff. And I'll let Kinky can definitely explain it better than me. But I will say that exquisite prompt is a little different than prompt battles, because prompt battles is like a timed thing, right, where you're just kind of everyone's kind of giving responses or remixes to each other or whatever they ends up being. Exquisite prompts is a constructed thing. It is something where you are actively trading panels and you're coordinating or collaborating in some way. But the reason why I think the phrasing exquisite prompt works really well is because it's a crafted thing that takes time to make, right? It took me 3 days to make the last 2 pages of that comic because I was so eager to make it look good, to make it look right. Being the kind of like my first proper collab comic with another AI user. Very cool to see, but at the same time I was super motivated to make it look right, because of that. um so yeah, and in terms of the folks saying, like, I definitely recommend coming by Sunday and checking out the prompt battles, because you'll be able to not only dig in, like, if say like you just keep prompting anime stuff, then you're going to see that a lot of the results that you get will no longer be anime afterward, because everybody's doing something else and challenging you to go into different directions than you thought before. So I think an exquisite prompt channel might be fun, but I definitely I just put that warning out there that I want to make it kind of like a coordinated event. Like, I want to be able to say, like, okay, let's get a bunch of people to work together on this. In fact, I'm gonna open up the Discord chat here real quick. Um, yeah, let's do that so I can at least see what you guys are saying here. Um, so I definitely, at least for me, I want to be able to see this technology get to a point where we are able to not only like actively trade our works back and forth like this, right? But we want to get less and less reliant on third party software, right? I do a lot of Photoshop and traditional like programs, like traditional workflows, which I'm familiar with. But for the average person who's probably watching this stream right now, they probably don't have experience related to Photoshop and stuff. So And we'll dig through. We'll actually sit down and kind of dig through some of these results here because some of them are really awesome looking, especially the more anthropomorphic stuff. But is that is that I'm like, is this your character, King? It almost looks like your character, Kinky.
I was
Uh,
thinking that. I was like, am I looking at his screen or am I looking at the? No, it's not mine, but it looks a heck of a lot like her.
right, right. I mean, you could definitely use this as like
Look at
turnaround
that,
information. Like,
consistent characters without even trying.
I know, right? Yeah, it is true that some characters are very easily to derive just with word prompts, right? To get like a
Those are
semi.
pretty good. But
Yeah,
they're not virtue.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
It's
like
it.
unless somebody else knows her, but
Well,
I
that's
don't.
the thing. That's the thing that I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I get from traditional artists, right, is that they're like, but how are you actually getting artistic intent and control out of just hitting buttons and writing words, right? And the thing is that it's my choices. It's the choices that make all the difference here. When I go through and I prompt, I'm just going to use this as an example really quick. If I go through and I say, black shirt, black hair, him, and then Niji5. This is kind of like my base model for Victor, right? This is essentially going to create a puppet for me to be able to manipulate. And oftentimes it looks like kind of like a supermodel. You know what I mean? It looks like a character that is otherwise too handsome and too clean normally. And if you run Niji, it's gonna make it anime, but it's going to also make it very much like a pretty boy sort of aesthetic here. So when I do the injections, like for the first one here, we're just gonna upres this. I have Victor saved inside of my Midjourney, so I can just come into here, hit variation strong, and then write Victor in here. And the reason why this works, and the reason why I have to tell people like, here's where your actual artistic like skill sets and knowledge come in, is not just writing the words, it's also the choices that you make. Depending on the results of this, there's a good chance that 2/3 or sorry 3/4 of these images, most of these images, are not going to look like Victor. It's going to evoke Victor. It's going to look kind of like Victor, but the how well I know this character means I can see him amongst the crowd. I can see him better amongst all these people. And actually, this is pretty on point. Like this is all pretty good. Um, but it lets me be able to say, hey, I want to I want to be able to choose the characters that are mine, that are that for example, if there was one of these that was very muscular, I wouldn't pick it because that's not the character. He's supposed to be kind of a lanky, tiny guy. The being able to see your own characters amongst the crowd is where you start to get that you know the creative choices that how can I say, like it's hard for me to convey without showing hundreds of examples of bad victors, right? Victors that don't look right. Same thing with like any of these prompts that are coming back, like this one here. Um, like these are four different characters, right? And four different, largely different art styles. But if you had a character that you were basing off of with this, then like let's this photo in a cartoon style, professional studios background, cinematic lighting, realistic ultra HD. The thing about this, and I'm actually going to quickly open this up in the couch here because I kind of need to check your reference image here. Okay, it's the guy thumbing up. I see. Okay, all right. I'm just gonna. I just gotta pull this up really. It's this guy. This guy. I don't know why this guy is now like the guy of the stream here, but yes. So the thing about what you're asking to do, right, is you're creating a blend, and the blend is not going to bring this character. It's going to kind of give you a median of all the results on that. So let me show you how to do a proper injection with this character really quick. Um, by the way, whoever's doing the Leonardo da Vinci Studio ones, I'm loving it. I'm loving these very high effort paintings. Um, so what I'm gonna do? Oh yes, and thank you for prompting Victor with cats. I definitely need more cats in my life. So what I'm going to do is I have this original picture here, the guy thumbing up, right? But instead of using that image right off the bat, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to describe it. Okay. So thumbs up, man with short black hair, white button up. And then we're actually going to put forced perspective, because that thumb is pretty exaggerated in terms of the camera positions. So we're going to say thumbs up, forced perspective, man with short hair, white button up. Now, whatever style that kind of results out of this, it will always revert back to whatever your image is. So for this picture, it's a real life person. Okay. So when I inject into this, it's going to become more and more like the real life person. It's so like if I started off with anime and then injected a real life character into this, we're going to slowly be bringing it back to real life. Okay. So I want to show you guys first the results of this. So we have what is exactly what I described. Okay, a man in a white shirt with short hair, giving a thumbs up to the camera. Okay, let's do the third one here because I think the third one gives us the best results. It has a nice silhouette to it. So now that we have this word-only prompt that works, we're gonna grab the URL from the dude thumbing up, this image down here, and I'm going to do a variation strong and then paste that image into the start of the prompt. So now we went from a word only prompt to a variation with the character with the image included at the beginning. And then I'm also going to do this as a subtle so that you guys can see the difference here. So let's look at the strong here. See how close we got to the character. And it definitely merged the ages between the two. So like, let me open this up a little better. Okay. So it merged the ages between the characters, but look how much closer we got right off the bat. Just because we were saying, hey, here is like a template, a character, a puppet for this character. Now I'm going to inject the art. The bottom left, like I said, they're all younger, but the bottom left is probably the closest in age, and the hair is so much closer to the original. Isn't that cool? But now let's check out the variation subtle. Boop. And you'll notice that with the variation subtle, it all starts to come back, but at the same time, it's kept the composition in form. I'll mute myself here so it's a bit easier to see. The composition is always the same. You'll always get some trees in the background on the bottom of the frame. The clouds are always kind of in the same sort of space. All the depth map is preserved. That's the key difference between variation subtle and variation strong. Variation strong picks a new depth map for you. It lets you be able, and I don't know if it's technically called a depth map in Midjourney. That's what I call it, but it picks an entirely new but similar composition, while variation subtle is going to keep the same composition. It's going to keep the same posing. It's just going to try to figure everything else out for you, And again, I am just injecting the image at the start of the prompt, of a word only prompt, and that's how I'm able to retain this control. If I would hit reroll on this, it wouldn't work. It'll give me a completely random result, because then we're going to get back to what you were originally doing on this, which is a blend. We're trying to avoid doing blends in order to control the results that we get. Okay. So if your prompt starts with a link and you're just, that's the raw result that you're getting, like your first result, it's very hard to control because you're basically relying on codes in order to force the image to show through. For example, if I take that same URL here, I'm going to scroll all the way down here. If I take the same URL that we had before, and we have the guy thumbing up like you guys have here, this photo in cartoon style, whatever, you're not going to get the results of the cartoon style because the image weight is so high. Okay. So if we wanted to kind of encourage that with a blend, you can actually just drop the image weight really hard. So let's do image weight 0.5, right? Because it's anywhere between 0.5 and 2, and 2 is the strongest, right? And we're going to add some words ahead of that. So let's just do thumbs up, forced perspective. And you'll notice that I use terminology like forced perspective rather than saying close up of hand, or just like a big hand, big hand thumbs up. If you say big hand thumbs up, it's just going to be literally a cartoon hand that's massive. Or maybe it just doesn't understand the result at all. But you can see that by dropping the image rate really high, we got our diversity back. We got some really interesting chaos out of this, actually. And it's all because we dropped the image weight really high, really low. And what that means is that you suddenly have so much less power from the picture you included, but also it's not going to reference the picture nearly as much. We got a guy with similar hair and a white shirt, but it's always going to be some other kind of demented looking person. With the lower and lower you drop your image weight, so it's also kind of interesting that it made everything like Egypt all of a sudden. Like that's pretty cool. Exploring image weights is a pretty neat trick, honestly. I am seeing some victors popping up here. It's really fun to see. This like victor cooking and like a cat interrupts him. Like let me up-res that one because that one's really cool. I'm very hesitant to say that the stuff that we generate is getting into in my comics, but I just Victor being upset in the kitchen is perfect. Like I love that. We should definitely explore this idea. I'm gonna use very region in paint here, and we're gonna try to fix the cat down here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to highlight select the cat here, something like that. And then let's go ahead, because remember, I'm not actually selecting anything about my character here. So I can remove all the image links that are here because none of them are relevant to this cat. Okay. So now let's give some direction to the cat. So let's say cat knocking water glass off table. And we already have the phrasing webcomic panels. We have riding a massive cat through a messy kitchen, which is what the original poster made, right? I'm actually going to remove the riding a cat through a messy kitchen because that's probably just going to add needless chaos. But we're going to keep web panels. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit enter on there, and we see what the results are. Most likely, I'll have to keep tweaking the phrasing on that. Cat judge. Yeah, cat lawyers. Yeah. Yeah, it's I think it was Adventure Time that made it the lawyers are like an evil or a race of people or whatever is just lawyers, and I just find that really funny. What is going on here? It made hands. Okay, I'm just gonna open this up so we can take a closer look. So I think funny webcomic confused some of my intent here, but we do have knocking it looks like a human hand that like tried to grab the glass just before it fell or something like that. You know what I mean? Maybe that's what's going on here. It's a little silly to try to give it intent because there is no intent. The intent is mostly random here. So we're gonna pop back up to our very region here, and I'm gonna put some emphasis on the cat here. Okay. And we're also going to increase the region, the actual area that we're going to manipulate this. So let's just do the entire open area above the counter here, and then we're going to do let's see, like falling water glass, and then we want to think of like phrasing that would evoke the kind of posing that we think the cat would be in, right? So like, let me think about that for a sec. We have we could do like a naughty cat, like not like just something like naughty cat, maybe because it's a black cat wearing tuxedo, just so we can evoke my previous comic here and see if we can get this to show up here. I want to say that the cats that are in my comic are in the Sage series, or Sage as a character, not necessarily Victor, but I definitely like the idea of basically saying like the cats are kind of a shared thing between Sage. I haven't really decided whether or not, because Sage is based off my wife, I just don't know if Victor and Sage are married. You know what I mean? Like I just haven't decided that far into the series. But the idea of Victor cooking and the cat's just like, pestering him while cooking is super cute. I really like that. And you'll notice that there's like influences of the cat in Victor too. Like he has suddenly cat ears and things like that. And we could fix all that with in painting. But I mostly just want to get into, oh, there we go. Okay, so we're starting to get it. We we definitely got, because of the tuxedo, right, in the prompt, which is kind of a random thing I added last second. We suddenly have champagne glasses. We suddenly have like other things that might evoke a dinner party, right? So I'm gonna double back on that. Go back up here, hit vary region, and everything like if you make changes and you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work or not, you probably want to save the line or otherwise look at the prompts because it will save whatever was the last thing you wrote. Okay, so let's get rid of wearing tuxedo. And naughty black cat knocking stuff off counter. Let's off the kitchen counter. Let's just do that.
Can't use the word naughty.
Oh, can I not use that? This is just let's
Maybe
go
now
ahead.
you can.
Well, it didn't have any problem with me doing it. So like I figure that
Good,
it's
good.
just the AI filter is smart enough to go, okay. We're gonna allow that. Victor getting surprised by the cat like doing something is number 3 here. So I'm just gonna upres that and then we'll take some questions, okay? Look at this. Look at this. I know that doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense, but we could make it make sense. We could make it have like a chaos moment where the cat, I've been preparing dinner for Sage all day or whatever, and then the cat runs in and just completely causes chaos in the kitchen. Like that could be a very fun exploration just right here. And this was all done with in painting. Like that's amazing. But yeah, all right. So I'm going to switch over to text here. And while you guys generate comics for me, I'm so excited to see them. I would love to take some questions. So feel free to type them out inside of VC text and I'll answer them as able.
I have the older ones lined up for you. So I had Black Alley asking, how do you maintain your character's features when trying to continue your comic panels? Sorry, I'm new here.
Yeah, sure. And I know that I glossed over character continuity really hard because we've done previous streams. And I have them all on my YouTube channel. So if you just search Victor Gnarly, and Kinky will probably link it a little in a minute too. But I have all my character continuity streams on YouTube, so you can learn how to create. Thank you. There they are. Awesome. Thank you, Kinky. You can learn how to do these sort of character sheets or expression sheets, and I'll load one up really quick here so that you guys can see. Inside of this Discord is something called the original characters channel. This is where people share and explore their different characters that they've made and see what other people do with them, right? This here is an example of a character sheet. So in order to create continuous characters inside of Midjourney, you need to create a character sheet or a full body turnaround of the character. Because this character, Mona, has a prop, the guitar itself, I ran 2 different prompts. I ran one prompt, which was just full body turnaround, and full body turnaround, cat ears, like all the other descriptors. And I got a really reliable result, which was the top left, which was everything that's up here. And then you need expressions as well. So this on the right side is all of her singing because she is going to be in a music video. So I needed a bunch of expressions of her singing. This is not enough expressions to really show the full diversity of a character. So I'm going to open up another one here. Sage is my most popular character. She is been featured in roughly 6 or 7 different comics now, and her comics tend to blow up online because she's very relatable. The expression sheet she has is very diverse, and that expression sheet lets me be able to get her to be sad, happy, excited, surprised. All that sort of stuff is all because you're seeing it in the expressions here. And she is built up of every one of these images is a unique URL that is a code that I've baked into Midjourney. And that, I'm not going to get through a step by step on that just yet. You can watch the videos for that. But essentially, all of her URLs are actually at the top here. So we can copy that. And then because I have her baked into my Midjourney, I can just write Sage in here and she will pop, and all those URLs will repopulate. So if I now come back over to Midjourney, this will work no matter what Midjourney server you're on. Okay. So if you go to a buddy's like Discord server and they have Midjourney on there, you'll be able to do the same thing. So like, for example, if I come into here and say, let's make a very quick Sage comic to show you how this works. So I'm going to do funny webcomic. Let's do the premise doesn't matter. I'm just doing an example. So blonde her. There's no direction at all given in this. It is just a raw result of a blonde woman in a webcomic. Okay. You'll notice that I'm using very basic pronouns because I don't want I don't want it to look like a photo shoot. I don't want it to look like a technical description of a certain gender. So we are going to very quickly build ourselves a Sage comic here. And more often than not, there tends to be a blonde man with a kind of a care flip in the front, which is who I've named Michael in the comic. So the third result, and for some reason it keeps being the third result. The third result for me already looks really close, like we can make that work. Okay. So now I'm going to hit variation strong and either paste all the URLs of that character. So every one of these, the first turnaround, the second turnaround, and then all the expressions, they're all a bunch of URLs. So I have it baked in. I hit Sage in order to use it, and boom, all of her URLs pop up at the front of the prompt here. And I can also do a variation subtle to basically say, I am 100% happy with the composition of this image. I just want to make it look closer to the character. So you'll notice that with variation strong, we lost the entire comic itself. Like we lost all of the like the composition of standing on the rooftop and looking out. But with variation subtle, on the other hand, you'll notice that we actually are starting to get closer to Sage now. And it always kind of shocks me how well this works. But if you hit the reroll button, it will not give you the same result. In order to cycle through options of different Sage comics, we actually need to double back up to the original image without any of the URLs in it, and we need to hit variation subtle again. And then we can do this a couple of times in order to really see the results here. So there you go. So that's how we do image injection or character injection. It's mostly done with variation subtle, and then variation strong is if we're just kind of happy with the overall mood or vibe and we want to explore a more refined result. But you'll notice that what I'm getting at here is actually quite usable, like especially like the second one here is usable. We'll go back up to the first one here. I would say that the third one here is usable. And then we'll look at the last one we rendered here. And I would say the second one again is usable here. The main thing to pull out of this is that you'll never get a completed comic. You'll never get one that looks perfect. It will always be parts of the comic that you will have to in-paint in order to make it look like a finished piece, right? And actually tell a story. Because obviously all the text is gobbledygook and speech bubbles don't make sense, that kind of thing. That's all just at predicting what you want. And you have to now apply the human part of that. So sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but I wanted to show what it looks like when you actually do from the beginning character injection. So
Nice. So then you had another question, and that was from Boozlegast. When making comics, do you have a pre-thought out story or more of an in the moment thing?
Yeah. So it's a little bit of everything, honestly. Whenever I am in kind of like a blank canvas mind, and I say blank canvas mind, like I actually don't know what I want to make. I just know I really feel like making something. That's when I will just use the webcomic prompt and explore different webcomic layouts and stuff. Just to, like I'm not really too inspired by this one in terms of like what these characters are saying to each other, but if I was, then that would be the start of it. But if I have a specific idea that I want to accomplish, I'm writing a lot more words at the start of these webcomic prompts, because I'm really trying to control it. I'm really trying to tell a specific joke. You know what I mean? Let's see. I have a previous comic that actually has a lot more intent than my other stuff. So let me pull that up here real quick. I'll go to my posts here on Reddit. Um, so with this one here, this was my like 500 follower shout out, right? And this was a lot of fun to make, but this was far more of an idea of where I knew what I wanted to do. Like I knew that I wanted to have the character, um, uh, basically reacting to getting the 500th follower, right? So I'm gonna mute myself here to make it easier to see. um in order to take this to go from ding, uh basically the premise I thought was that the ding of the 500 follower would get mistaken for the ding of the elevator. Like that's kind of the visual joke I was going for here. So that's why I knew I needed the phone and the elevator to be near each other, and I knew that I wanted them to be talking. I originally had Victor talking to her, but Victor doesn't really pan very well, not nearly as well as Sage does. So what I did is I just kind of cut off the head and blurred it really good in order to evoke that someone is there, but not distract the audience by having to know who a second character is who wasn't important for the story. So what I knew ahead of time was that there was going to be FBI agents that come in, and they're trying to stop her from being funny. That was the entire premise, was the FBI agents are going to come in and try to shut down the operation. I was kind of making fun of mean internet comments with this, right? So I started prompting, a girl at the office, and frankly I think the reason why this comic did so well was just because so many people find a woman in a business suit, like a blonde woman with a loose tie and a business suit, super hot. So like they were like, yes, upvote this. So this ended up blowing up really big, which I was really happy to see because it's literally a call out for people to follow me on Reddit. And so it's like, oh shiz, it's the feds. And then I had a buddy of mine that's really into guns, and he was like, I really hate that you didn't check this comic with me before posting it online because guns don't work that way." And I'm like, I know, but this is just a cartoon. I'm having fun with it. And so, it's like, get her. She's trying to be funny. You'll never take me alive. Blam, 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 blam. Like I really, I knew what I was going for with this, when it comes to the intent of of basically saying like there's the FBI agents are going to shoot her down and stuff. But I will say that some of my comic layouts tend to be pretty abnormal, and that's not because I'm using generated imagery. It's abnormal because I have a weird brain, and I tend to read things from middle down. So like this panel where the guy saying she was hysterical, sir. It really should be another whole line below it. But I was just nah. I want to evoke the shotgun being shot and all that stuff. But yes, the guns don't make any sense. It's still very cartoony otherwise. But this is an example of where I had a very solid idea and I was just fleshing it out, and then going from there.
So your next question is, um, how did you save Victor? And the thing is, we actually were thinking about this last week, and we never actually nailed down the process of making the what are they called?
Slash prefer.
Preferred settings. Yeah. So that would be
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
thing to get into.
Yeah, let's do that really quick. Okay. So how do you save your characters in Midjourney? All right. So let's first go over the fact that you need to have that character sheet done. You need to have this sort of sheet ready to go, where it is a nice clean white background and you're easily able to select every pose that's on here. So if I was to select any one of these images and then copy them over to Discord, there wouldn't be chunks or fragments of the other images inside of that selection. So if I open up any of these Sage images here, They need to all be unique URLs. So if I kind of scroll down here, lots of motorcycle lady. Let me scroll up here real quick.
I don't know
Okay,
that motorcycle lady. I'm sorry.
it's all good. But if you notice, if I open up each one of these URLs, they are all individualized versions of that sheet. Okay, so that's what you need first, is that you need to have all these images as unique URLs. Okay, so now that you have all these unique URLs, you need to save them inside of Midjourney as what is called a slash prefer. And in fact, in my tutorial, so if we go to victorgnarly.com, you go to my website, you hit movie machine at the top. There is a link to the actual tutorial here. Okay. So if you click this tutorial and and we just kind of let it load for a second, there is an entire, like, this is everything from this class, from every future class actually that I'll be teaching is inside of here. There's 140 pages here, y'all, so it's a lot of stuff. But the main thing I want to pull out here though is the last section of original character creation. I actually just updated. In the saving your character in Midjourney, I actually did some screenshots to make this a lot easier for y'all. So what you're going to do is you're going to write slash prefer, and then you're going to hit option select, option set here. And then if you have characters saved already, you're going to get a list of all the characters that you saved up. But let's just say you have a character and his name is Bob. Okay. Then what you want to do is, yeah, Bob is just Bob. Then what you want to do is you want to hit +1 more, hit value, and then include all of the URLs for the character inside of this value box here. And you can even include character descriptions. Like you can be like, okay, Bob always has a construction hat on and is always in a Pixar style, or whatever you end up doing. You can write descriptors on there, but understand that the more words you include there, the less diverse the results you get. So I recommend, once you have a continuous character, just save the URLs and then always rewrite what you want to include. Because even for my tutorial where it's a blonde girl with an oversized red backpack and a green hoodie, I have that saved as the slash prefer for Micah for the character. But every time I prompt her, the backpack will always be kind of part of the subject. And I don't necessarily want that to be true. Like sometimes I want her to just be her close up of her face. So be careful about including words inside of your character saves here. But after you have all this, have all the URLs inside the value here, just hit enter. And now every time you write -- Bob, it's going to pull up that character. So just like I did -- Sage or -- Victor, that's how you do it. You're basically going to write the slash prefer saving of the character of your URLs, and that's how you save it in Midjourney. So you can bring it from server to server without having to copy and paste every time. So I hope that answers it. If not, you can click the link to my tutorial and find it there. Yeah.
Tara says, yeah, it's like curating becomes a creative act because of the sheer volume of material. That's just a comment, and I thought it was a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
Princess Lexicon says, how would you make Sage sleeping or lying down, for example, since your baked in ref images appear to all be her standing in face? You have to create all new hand drawn Sage drawings laying down to do better image injection into Remix. I noticed that any reference images will not go easily into my other pose other than what they start off as,
Yeah.
even when I follow the process. It just keeps putting character in the style of ref images.
Right.
Sorry for the
Right.
long
And
text.
no, you're good. You're good. And I do really appreciate that question because it does answer. It does need to get answered. So every time you do an injection, you're bringing the artwork closer back to your turnarounds, right? You're bringing it closer back to your reference sheet. And the thing is if your reference sheet doesn't include any characters laying down or relaxed or anything like that, you're going to have to rely on basically not putting too much emphasis on your image weights. So let's try to get Sage laying down in bed really quick. Okay. And I'm going to try to do this entirely with just word only prompts, just so that we can get an idea of where we, this see how possible this is. Because if it's not possible, if I really run into a wall on this, then I do have to create poses of her laying down in order to do this. But I believe we can get away with this. So let's do blonde, her, and then at the front of this we are, and you can see my dyslexic brain in action, by the way, because I'm writing the end of the prompt first because I'm going, I can't forget this, and then I start writing. But so I will say, let's do lying in bed, and lying in bed, sleeping, blonde her, and what's going to happen here, because I'm not going to run Niji, I'm going to try to run this without Niji first. The reason why I'm not running Niji is because Niji's dataset is going to be very, very, it's all anime, right? It's all like looking at, I don't know, just all sorts of different anime references, and there's not a lot of like relaxed images or moments that at least I can easily describe. So we now have a blonde girl laying down, sleeping, and we're going to get all sorts of like styles and Victorian era and all that kind of stuff. But what we can do is I'm going to say that the second one might be the closest, just for the sake of trying to get this to work. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a variation strong, which is going to give us the most divergence. And we'll include Sage in there and see what this does. And here's the thing. I did not write Niji, right? Because I wanted to get a pose that was more realistic, more humanoid, right? Not an anime. But what I can do is I can hit variation strong again, add Sage to the beginning here, all of her URLs, and then at the end here, I'm going to add Niji. I'm going to convert this image to an anime. And we can do this with variation subtle as well. So we'll come into here, Sage, and then Niji 5, and we will convert these images while doing the injections, okay? And so with variation strong, she's suddenly standing back up again because the image references do not feature her laying down, but the face is her laying down. The face is her relaxed in bed. So maybe we can composite that, but it's really about variation subtle that is going to make a more believable Sage sleeping. Like, oh my god, this is like perfect right here. So it's because I am switching to Niji after I'm happy with the pose. Look at that. That looks a lot like Sage sleeping, right? And like you're getting all of this expression out of it that would evoke someone sleeping because we're effectively converting it to anime. This method is something I call making anime real. It's an old political joke, but it is definitely what's happening here. Like we're able to control the images because we're starting with word only prompts and we're not allowing the image weight to control the image. You'll notice that when I did the variation strong and it started picking her back up, like it says she's getting up out of bed, right? That was entirely because of variation strong. It's because it's looking at my images and going, oh, we got to bring that a lot stronger back to these images, while doing like a bit of a balance between that. But if we did variation subtle, suddenly the pose is kept, the depth map's kept, and she's like kind of groggy and waking up on another page. Like this is amazing. You could tell an entire kind of 4-panel comic just with this result alone, right? Like
Yep.
I'm tired, I'm sleeping and stuff, and then going like, oh, the alarm went off, and it's like, oh, I don't care, shut it off or whatever. Isn't that awesome?
That's actually gorgeous. How could you sum up how you did that in 4 quick steps, maybe?
Oh yeah, sorry, I tend to ramble. So
No, no, no.
yeah.
I just my ADHD.
Right. Basically, just use variation subtle, and then do not start with Niji, and then switch over to Niji after you do the first image injection. That's really the key thing is switching to Niji. After you're happy.
Photorealism or
Yeah. From anything that kind of comes up like what I would call the default Mid-Journey style, which is a mixture of realism and painterly sort of Renaissance sort of look. That's what I consider the default Mid-Journey look. it's going to convert that to anime if you then hit variation subtle and make her, and use Niji at the end of the prompt.
That came out really nice. Like in continuous with what Sage looks like. Good job.
Let me see what you guys did here, because oh wow, that is awesome. This first one here is like sexy Sage yeah, awesome guys. This is great. So it definitely is true that you guys are more than welcome to make your own comics and stuff. I just ask you guys to please send it to me if you guys make anything with Sage or with Victor, because I really want to kind of catalog these characters' adventures through the internet. I'm loving, like, and this is, you'll very easily diverge away from Sage too. Like, I would say that none of these particularly look like her, just because the hair length's a little wrong. I would say maybe it's also true that there's a lot of realism we have to take into account. Like, there's some things that just will look weird.
Black Alley says, "Thank you, sir. Do you try to be as brief as possible when creating your webcomic? When it comes to the action sequences, or can the prompt actually handle like 20 lines of detail?"
Okay, I'll say it like this. You can write as much as you want, but in terms of getting control of the images, like the results and whatnot, I don't really get much control without having to, like, basically have a premise in mind, right? That's when I really start retaining control, is when I'm like, okay, if I'm going to have a bunch of interactions and stuff, I'm probably going to do that more with in-painting now than anything else. I used to, at least in my tutorial, what I explain way too heavily, you'll notice this, is an over reliance on the variation buttons to kind of give me more options to cut and paste inside of Photoshop and make it work. With in painting now, you can really do almost all of that inside of Midjourney, so that you can get all of your intent inside of the live action version, and then inject the anime into it after that. Inject your characters into it after that. So writing a bunch of stuff will get you probably the result closer to what you're looking for, but it will also be very frustrating, because you'll end up with, like, why is my character always wearing a robe when I run this prompt? And then you'll say, like, okay, well, then I have to, negate robes. So, like, for example, if I do, let's actually pull up one of the previous cat judges, and I can do that with the search function here. So let me just search cat judge really quick. So we have I'm clicking this because it has robes. Okay. We have like I would say almost like a Greek god court case when they're all cats for some reason. I just mostly want to emphasize here that we can now in paint inside of here and give not only like direction for the characters, but more specifically, we can also inject like negative prompts into here. So for example, if I just didn't like the fact that this cat here is wearing this blue robe or whatever, then I should be able to just highlight select the blue robe like this everywhere that there's a blue robed character like this. Okay. And now inside of the prompt here, I'm going to hit no robe at the end, no robe. And we'll see if it's able to say, oh, okay, I need to make this image work, but I need to make it work without robe. Yeah, is it going to be like a naked cat? Like, is it going to be Cousin It, where it's just a bunch of hair? Like, what is it going to do? We don't know, but what we do know is what we don't like, right? We don't like that, like, and I'm just giving an example here. There's nothing wrong with this cat's robe. I'm just giving an example. But
Spent a lot of time picking that robe out to be here
yeah,
today.
right.
So.
Yeah, right. I'm making him so sad. Just making fun of his outfit. So let me just kind of come down into here, and we'll now open the results of setting no robe. And look at that. The cat's just sitting on the counter now. Isn't that amazing? It's like it's literally like what we wanted. We just wanted to remove the robe, and that's exactly what it did. And we did that entirely
doesn't have
with
hands
just
anymore. He's doing cat things.
He's just doing cat stuff. You know what I mean? And it's all because of a single negative prompt. We told it no robe, and yeah, it's awesome. I'm blown away by some of the results you guys are getting. By the way, like, this is like straight up a Netflix movie now. If you guys make a whole Netflix
American
movie
Beauty?
for me, yeah, American Beauty, yeah, let's remake American Beauty, but without all the problematic actors. Yeah, let's do that. No Kevin Spacey. Yeah, I've definitely love the results that you guys are picking here. But I mostly wanted to emphasize that understanding how this stuff works in terms of negative and positive prompts, right, and particularly image weights, is where you're going to get the most amount of control out of this stuff. Um, it will it'll band-aid everything. It'll try to figure everything for you, right? Like for example, on this first result that's here, that booth doesn't really make any sense. Like it kind of does, from the angle, but then the rest of the image doesn't make sense. Okay, so what I can do to kind of fix that is we can now upres that one. I'll just scroll down here. We can now upres that one and start to fix some parts of it that don't work. So, well, that wasn't even the same picture now that I'm looking at it. Yeah, let's do this one here. Okay. So we can now hit vary region again, and we can now select the parts that kind of look wrong, right? Like this one here. And let's just do all this here. Let's just try to get rid of, because here's the thing, and this is something that people learn pretty quick about making comics. The more characters you add, the less well your comics do, right? And the reason why is because you're distracting your audience constantly. You want your audience to be invested in your characters, and investment means time. So if you have like 8 characters inside of your story, you're literally splitting your audience investment into 8 pieces, which is very little. The we all can't make 12 angry men, okay? That's the key thing here, is that you wanna really specialize in 1 or 2 characters. For me, my 2 characters were Victor and Sage. I do have other characters, but those are the 2 that I've put the most amount of time in, and the ones that I have the strongest relationships with. So for this example here, we just want the I'm gonna call it God Cat on the left side here, and then on the right side I'm gonna say it's just the regular cat. But those are the only 2 characters we really should feature in this. So what I'm gonna do is, instead of saying no robe on here, I'm just gonna remove all of the text and then say empty courtroom, funny webcomic. And the only reason that I'm including funny webcomic is so that we don't end up with a realistic courtroom. Okay. And now I'm just gonna hit send on this. Keep in mind, the only thing I'm changing is the what I feel like is wrong from the picture. So let's say having a cup of coffee, her, blonde, and I'm gonna do this as an image injection. So we're not gonna do this as Niji first, just so that I can try to retain as much kind of control over this image as I can. The one of the reasons I say that you don't really retain control is because, like, at least for me, like, Niji is going to include all sorts of superfluous anime like stuff, and I don't really want that. I just want a girl having coffee. Okay. So let's and you're always going to get these kind of buxom blondes, by the way. Like that's just Midjourney being Midjourney in terms of everybody has to be a supermodel. You'll notice here that every one of these, she's like a center of frame, and there's not really a lot of essentially, if she was to look at Victor on that 4th panel, Victor would be probably an over the shoulder blurred large shadow that's on the side of the frame, which is not really beneficial for my explanation here. So I'm actually going to skip this one, and I'm going to come back up to here with the prompt, and I'm going to write something that's going to make this a little bit easier. And you can see that some people are kind of, already trying to do what I was going to say, which is profile, try to get a flatter composition. But let's actually say that we want a flat profile composition. So I'm going to kind of build off of Brandon here and say flat composition. Let's do we could even evoke cartoon minimalism if we want to kind of avoid the realism right off the bat. I'm just going to show you what those results look like, because if you write cartoon minimalism, it is far more likely to give you what you guys would imagine a profile view of a character is. because a real profile, like a live action profile, is not really what an animated profile looks like. It tends to actually be still a 2/3, like how she's sitting on the first one, where it's kind of her shoulders are still pointing to the camera. We want something more like the second one, where it's a proper profile, right? The shoulders are, um, not in parallax to the camera. So we're gonna hit upres on that, and then I'm gonna inject Sage into this one, and we're gonna see what a cartoon minimalist version. Oops, hold on a second. There we go. We're going to quickly evoke Sage in here, and then I'll even put Niji on there just to kind of encourage the anime aesthetic on there. And then while that one's rendering, I'm gonna take one of let's see, Lizzie's here. I like Lizzie's a lot. This one's pretty cute. And we're gonna do a let's do a variation subtle of this one, and we'll include Sage, and then Niji 5. You can see with the cartoon minimalism result that we got though, a lot of it's chaos, keep in mind, but that's because cartoon minimalism is actually incredibly hard for Midjourney to understand. Um, it does a good job, but it very often doesn't understand what the shapes really represent. The more minimalism you want to go for, like basically if you want to go to a Don Hertzfeldt level of stick figures, right? Midjourney is going to almost not never give you what you want, because it that was a double negative, but Midjourney just doesn't really understand cartooning intent in the same way that our brains do. Okay, it can only understand that sometimes there's some simple shapes that represent more complex shapes. That's really all that it is. So we probably need to change eye lines. We probably need to change the mouths. The more minimalist we go. But let's now check out the result that we got from doing the subtle injection here with Lizzie's image here. And it's pretty, but it's wrong. There's a lot of wrongness that's happening here. When I see this sort of result, sometimes I can get away with just keep doing a subtle injection and hope for the best, right? But in reality, I tend to just kind of double back and then just do a variation strong. Just because variation strong is more often going to give us a result that is usable, but maybe overproduced. Like the quality of it is way too high for an average webcomic, which is a consideration that AI users uniquely have, which is I could make a completely live action version of my comic, but no one really wants to wake up in the morning and look at a bunch of live action people that they don't recognize doing things. What they want to do is they want to self imprint themselves inside of the characters that they read, right? That's what makes a relatable comic relatable, is that they can see these minimalist shapes and go, that's me, that's my problems, that's what I have depression, and this little cartoon blob is also dealing with depression. I relate to this blob. Like, that's cartooning in a nutshell, right? If we now do a variation strong, suddenly everything is right. Like everything looks like a very overproduced, very expensive thing, but it is far closer to what I would imagine a Netflix or movie version of Sage would look like. But that's the main negative with Variation Strong, is that the production quality is so high that you will end up with content that people don't actually want to see. Like if they want to watch a Netflix show, they'll go to Netflix and watch it. They won't go to, a random Twitter page and look at people's stuff. At least not in my experience. I can relate to this blob. Yeah, definitely relate to the blob. In fact, that's a t-shirt that I would wear. I would wear, like, I don't know if you all remember that 80s horrors film The Blob, right?
Mhm.
I would 100% wear a shirt that just had a picture from the blob and it just says relate to the blob. Yes, I relate to the blob monster for sure. So let's just take one of these and let's put Victor talking to Sage on this one here. So I'm gonna do the second one here because she's holding a coffee cup, which is kind of an ongoing thing with Sage, is that she's always holding a coffee cup. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna first try to build this scene out. And the thing is, if I just pan left and include Victor, the problem with that is that they will start to share attributes of each other. Okay, just like as if I did a blend, but a little less effective or a little less strong anyway. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna pan left here, and then I'm gonna remove all the text, all of it, everything. I'm gonna remove it all and say, let's just do a coffee shop as the scene. And the reason why I'm doing this is to give them negative space between the two characters, but also to make sure we don't accidentally share attributes between the two characters. Um, it might be kind of fooling us when we look at it, but what's actually happening is that there's like, prompts that represent this image, right? But there's also prompts that, like, basically when we pan over, some of those words are going to be used to influence the image next to it. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that when we pan, we end up not referencing Sage at all when we get to Victor, right? So we're gonna let this load for a minute, and we're gonna see if it lets us pan over and just see a coffee shop. But I'm loving these like kind of purple pimp cat business cat ones. These are really funny. I can totally see a complete graphic novel made with these, where you essentially just hit zoom out on any of these results, and you start to get a full comic made here. I'm going to drop off as it's getting late, but thanks so much to Kinky, Movie Machine, which is me, and Ancient for putting these events together. I'll catch up on the recordings tomorrow. Yeah. So thank you so much, Celeste, for joining, and also being a guide here and stuff. It's definitely important to have you guides doing things here, getting everyone up to speed and not encouraging more data pollution on the internet. Um, I'll get into that here in a minute, but I just really do enjoy you guys all kind of rooting for the characters that we make, and seeing all the kind of projects that we're able to put together is just super neat to me, and it's all because you guys are giving me this loudspeaker, and I really appreciate that. um and of course, Kinky and Ancient kick ass, and are great hosts for me, especially since I tend to
Aw,
yammer in different directions, and you guys help set me straight on that, so I
you're gonna
appreciate
make
it.
me blush.
Sage is highly caffeinated. I can definitely relate to that. Yes. Sage is she has ADHD. She is someone who so she is a self-insert of my wife, right? So she has a lot of experiences that are similar to my wife, but also like it's very different. Like my wife is not nearly as outspoken as Sage is. Like Sage will do things that are more similar to my behavior, like talk before they think. But the actual sort of like experiences of a woman, right? I don't have. I projecting that when men write for women, it is so freaking obvious that I refuse to be another one of those dudes that just pretends to be a lady online in order to get
Bounce
internet
boobily
points.
down the stairs.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Boobily. Boobily is by far one of the funniest words
She
that
shifted boobily down the stairs and
God,
waved
I
her blonde hair around the room. Gosh, it's hard being
yeah.
a girl, she thought.
Yeah, no, it's so cringy, honestly. Like when you really read, like I go on to a subreddit called Troll X Chromosome, right? Which is all of just a bunch of women complaining about everything that is justifiable to complain about in the modern world. And it is so funny. Like honestly, those girls are so freaking funny. And
What
it
is
all
this?
just Troll X Chromosome. So
Oh,
there yeah, so essentially, like Reddit has two different subreddits. They have an advice subreddit called the chromosomes, like the X and Y and whatever, and then they have the troll versions of them. And the troll versions is my forte. That's yeah, there you go. The troll X chromosome is by far one of my favorite women subs, and it really lets me kind of like get ideas for my own stuff, but also like I share it with my wife, and I'm like, okay, so how much do you relate to these experiences and stuff, and she'll give me like 2 cents on everything, so that's really great. But yeah, if you want like a candid take from women, then that's probably the sub I would go to. Um the uh yeah, so the purple cat zooms got weird. Yeah, I bet they did. I'm certain that they did actually. It's you're gonna be entering some wacky tobacco sort of areas with that one.
I have tons
Um,
of these.
so let me go back to VC Create here because I got my results from this. And let's see if we got and I'm liking some of these reactions you guys got. That's really cute. Definitely like her open mouth and talking and such. Um, did we get, yes, okay, so we got the coffee shop here, I think. Cool. All right. So, and we got another one here. See if you notice that the white border, like the white framing on these, was mostly like acting as a page break, right? It was like almost like we have to replace the background in there later, which is fine. We don't have to worry about that too much. But what I'm gonna do is I am going to, let's actually scroll down to this other one here because it's a little simpler. Okay. So can't really see it too well on this. Yeah. So let's just take the this third one here because it's very simple. I just don't want a lot of influence from the image. Okay. So I'm going to take this third one, and we are going to now do another pan because we're panning left and right. We can only pan left and right. We can't now just suddenly say, "Oh yeah, pan up," you know. And this is also that you keep the images in a single direction. But what we can do now is, because if we hit pan left, you'll notice it'll only say coffee shop because that's all we had before. So that means the only influence I'm going to have on Victor is also of a coffee shop, right? So let's do Victor, and again, all my URLs are baked into Midjourney for me, so I don't have to keep copying and pasting those. But let's do Victor, and then drinking coffee, or let's do something that I normally do not do. I'm a big coffee drinker. I'm gonna say drinking tea. I hate tea. I cannot stand tea. I'm gonna do drinking tea. Or let's just do sipping tea so that it's a little more of evoking like an action. Because if you're just drinking tea, you could just be holding the cup of tea. You know what I mean? Like it's less. I feel like sipping tea, and it just to evoke something that another artist actually told me. She was like, look at Victor with his classic bad posture. And I was like, the only reason that character has bad posture was because when I'm sometimes I use my webcam to like kind of control these images really well. So like I'll use a picture of myself and then convert that to anime, and then inject Victor in there. When I do that, it's always my own bad posture that she's seeing. So she actually saw me through my art, which was hilarious. Yeah, so it's when you really start to like control this stuff where you're using webcams in order to like give yourself a reference that is exactly what you're looking for because you just posed it, right? Um, it's a lot easier to you know, to get what you need out of this stuff. But if you notice, the result that we got with Victor right off the bat, okay, is it's very effeminate because again, we have a woman nearby that is kind of influencing that. So now we can double back up here. I can hit pan left again, and then I'm going to actually I have to go back and copy the damn thing here. So I'm just going to copy everything from my prompt here, not worry about using my prefer. Going to hit left here again, but this time I'm going to include the pronoun him just to avoid the more effeminate results. Okay. And depending on where you put the word him is going to decide exactly, how effeminate the character is going to be. So if you put him at the very beginning of the prompt, you might get more muscular Victors because it's going to be referencing from men who are much more bulky, or potentially more bulky. And so as soon as I put him in there, you'll notice that all these sort of effeminate features that was, in the first version of this prompt, which I'm gonna pull up here, zoom in a bit for you guys. I do like some of these effeminate ones. Like I oftentimes use effeminate Victor in order to kind of evoke a different sort of mood or personality. But when we now include him into the prompt, yes, we get some business suits. Yes, we get some more like older, kind of looks here, but he is now sitting at like more properly sitting at a table. You know what I mean? Like I'll mute myself so you can see. But look at that. He is now like elbow on the table. You know what I mean? Like it's so close to what I want to do. It's amazing, right? So now what I can do is I can hit like let's just do variation 2 on here. Yes, Victor doesn't normally wear a suit, but for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to show this here. So, I guess one of the things is that when you have multiple characters in this, it's oftentimes better just to reconstruct them from prompts, right? Like how I'm doing with the live action stuff. And the stuff that you guys are doing is really, really pretty. Like I'm really digging some of this. Like it's very easy for me to get distracted when you guys are prompting stuff because I'm like constantly digging into like everything you guys are doing and I'm seeing my characters, which is really cool to see you all experiment with. But at the same time, like most of these results that come through here are going to be kind of like a buxom version of Sage. They'll oftentimes have anatomy that's a little too big in certain places, and that includes the hair and whatnot. But it's meant to be an example for you guys so that you can see what sort of diversity you get off of these simple prompts. And if say like for example here, her hair is just constantly too long, you can evoke a shorter hairstyle. You can literally just tell them what sort of hairstyle that character has.
That's actually
And
great because that was a question that was in line for you.
I will say this also about hair. Hair is very important for the silhouette of a character. This is one of the alien things that I really don't think that we really take into consideration normally. We always just kind of go, okay, the character has hair, like the character has spiky hair or whatever. But the reality is that the shape of your head is kind of like an ID card for Midjourney. It really lets them know, okay, out of all the results that I'm going to be able, like if I put an image weight of Victor in there, or sorry, an image of Victor, and it looks at that weight and it goes, okay, his hair is kind of like a counterclockwise swirl of spikes, right? Then it's going to reference every other thing that kind of has that sort of head, that kind of has that sort of hair. So
Yeah.
it's not uncommon for me to get DBZ characters out of my prompts. You know what I mean? Just because of the wild spiky hair. Um, Little things like that will influence the prompts a lot. So like with Sage, for example, the number one thing I'm doing is trying to remove the length of hair. Like there's almost always way too much hair. Um, you can fix that with just in painting, like re-in paint Sage into the comic again.
I just wanted to mention, like, I had heard once that at least some other major animating studio um, decided like how good a character was going to be based off of how clearly you could figure out who they were based on their silhouette.
Yeah, yeah, and that's actually something that's taught to every animation student. If you go to film or animations, like basically, if in character design, if you can recognize the character by deleting every detail and it's just the silhouette of the character, you've done a good job. Like when you see faces in the bushes or faces in the trees and stuff, and you kind of get a little bit of a flight response, a little bit of fear from,
Pareidolia.
um, yeah, parrot. Thank you. Yes, that's the word. What you're doing is is mistaking a pattern of movement or light for something your brain has been trained to be afraid of. Okay. um and so that's essentially the same thing as what's happening when you recognize a silhouette. You are recognizing a unique shape to the point where that shape is not being confused with anything else. You're not you're trying to create a silhouette that is so defined that there isn't any moment of confusion between who is what. This is actually why a bunch of Western audiences have trouble getting into anime, is because all the characters quote unquote look the same, right? And it has to do with just how much conformity there is. There is so much conformity in anime to where humanoid characters aren't really allowed to diverge that much from them. But then if you look at like Western minimalism, the divergence is insane. Like sometimes characters literally do not stay what is called on model for much time at all. Ren and Stimpy, for example, is very off model. The characters will constantly change their silhouettes because they are exaggerating an emotional response constantly. Um, and that's also like the chibi stuff in animes. So like if you have like a chibi character response, like a oh my god kind of like reaction to something, that is evoking a different silhouette in order to make you go, oh, okay, this is supposed to be a different mood or a different temperament of the character. Maybe it's meant to be the lighthearted, funny side of a very serious character, like that kind of thing. Knowing the intent and purpose of all that stuff is very important, but the silhouette is really how even Midjourney understands this stuff. Like, understand, I think I basically unlocked character continuity simply because I understood how silhouettes work in animation. Okay, so like if I create a turnaround and I know that the image weight is going to heavily influence the results, then that means that my silhouette is going to be the most powerful thing. And if we kind of take the concept of a silhouette and remove the idea that it has to be a blackened image, it could be a silhouette of a color, it could be a silhouette of a mood. Like, there's so many weird words that we need to now make up in order to kind of explain what's happening here. But that influence of that shape is really where we start to go, okay, this looks like a moody character. This looks like a hyperactive character. This looks like an anxious character. These are just silhouettes. Like, it's really quite amazing. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to really relate this without getting too heavily into technical terminology, but I will just say that whatever is happening inside of Midjourney, whenever we inject the characters and we just suddenly start to see the characters that we're familiar with pop back up in our prompts, I mean, it blows my mind every time like even just you guys prompting stuff, and I see Sage occasionally on the corner of my eye as we scroll through. Just blows my mind that we're able to do this at all. So collaborative storytelling is really where I want to see Midjourney go, and I feel like you guys are going to end up in that direction inevitably. But like, this is really cute. Like, this is a really great like start of the composition I was really aiming for. In fact, a much better example of it, I'll be honest. So like like this again, perfect profiles of what we were kind of aiming for earlier.
Boozlegas asking about um, whether Adobe Creator Character Animator will let you do a live out. Let's how you
Oh, yeah.
function with that.
Yeah. So I use Adobe Character Animator for these streams. You'll notice that my body is locked into place on specifically right in front of the Victor Gnarly website logo. And the reason why that is because I used a template. I just used one of the existing templates and then just started replacing the artwork with generated imagery. Okay. And so eventually I got it. It took me about 3 hours, honestly, because I was learning the program while I was messing with it. But after I got Victor to basically just stick in one place inside of the webcam here, I was really happy with it. The only thing I couldn't get working, which I got the blinks working, as you can tell, I can blink. The thing I couldn't get working was my eye line. So like when my eyes look left and my eyes look right, like I couldn't get that working. That was the only thing that I still have to learn. But at least when it comes to the character animator, you can literally just prompt things with white backgrounds and then use that as your VTuber model, very cool for like animating things and doing stuff very quickly. Yeah. So like this one's super cute. I really like this one here. And this one's from Lizzie. So this one's super cute. I really do think that this one evokes Sage more than a lot of the others because it has the bangs, it has all that sort of stuff. But if we really wanted to make Reddit go nuts on this one, we can literally just go region vary, and then we're going to select her shirt here, and we're just going to say like a loose tie or something like that, and see if it's able to recreate the original look that I went for with here. Loose tie, and like we'll just say loose business tie, so that we evoke a little more of the results here. Maybe we'll get closer to what we want. Dude, this is so cute. Like, a lot of these results are really cute, guys. And I feel like Lizzie understands my character pretty well. She's pretty. They are picking images that really go in line with my comic really well. So that's really great. Thank you for that. But look at this. All right, there we go. We have the loose tie. So that second one here is like dead on to what would make Reddit go nuts. They love cute blonde girls wearing ties. Understand, my main series for my website is under victorgnarly.com. I have and I'll just kind of pull this to the side here. I have a series called Beyond the Valley, right? Which is quite literally me just like exploring this one character, Victor. Okay. And Victor is meant to be kind of a guide through latent space, or like through artificial imagery, right? And so when I was making this comic and Victor's kind of explaining the world and how everything works, um, understand that the main reason why my comics were not doing well wasn't necessarily because I have a really discordant layout style, but it was more the fact that my character is not very appealing. Like he is a spooky guy with like, evoking some pretty spooky things and scaring people and all this sort of stuff. Like there's a level of intensity to the character that can be very off-putting to someone that just wants a slice of life comic about a cat, at least when they're like waking up in the morning and wanting to read comics. So my stuff tends to be way too intense for the average audience member. So like you'll notice things like in this page here where I go blam, and it's like if I can turn an online rant into an anime, then we've broken the fifth wall. Like what I'm doing here is I'm literally breaking the comic. Like the comic is falling apart as Victor explodes here. The comic panels are shredding themselves away, and that was entirely because one of the layouts that I got was this sort of shredded aesthetic. I did end up redrawing a good amount of this, but like this is inspired by the AI imagery I was getting. The thing is that I was so inspired, I didn't recognize how palpable my art would be. As in, like, this character is very intense and very spooky to people to the point where I was losing audience members because they was just getting too intense with some of the imagery that I was going with here. I mean, literally just staring into spooky eyeballs and stuff like that. I am all about this sort of intense imagery, but the average person is not. They're going to be more into what the Sage comics are, which is slice of life relatable stories, short little meta comics that really work well. So if I now go up to my comics here and then we swap on over to the standalone comics here. The standalone comics, I'll probably eventually make a Sage series too, but the standalone comics are where I try to be as relatable as possible. Like I try to make things that are a little more interesting for people to quickly consume. And that includes all the Sage comics, but it also includes little like tidbitty note stuff like this. So like there's a whole generation of artists and musicians who think their art isn't good because of the way algorithms work online. Like this post got pretty big. It wasn't anywhere near my biggest stuff, but this is an example of one where like my intent was just to send a message to people. You know what I mean? I wanted just something quick and consumable. And that to me, even though it's just a sign, like even though that this here, hold on. Even though this image is just literally a generated image of a sign with like a chalk sort of aesthetic on it, this is a highly relatable comic. This is the comic that's designed to make you feel like not necessarily happy haha, but it's definitely meant to make you feel, oh man, that's right. Like I feel like that too. Like that's a relatable comic. And I want it to be kind of exploitable. I want it to be that someone can come in and replace the text on that sign and replace it with whatever they want. That also makes an exploitable comic. So by combining relatable and exploitable, you suddenly have a meme. You suddenly have what will create a meme. And so let me show you guys the only example I've ever had of one of my comics becoming a viral meme. Okay. So this comic here, this is a reference to Xavier Renegade Angel, which is an Adult Swim show that I was quite fond of when I was before I was working at Adult Swim. This would have been about 2 or 3 years probably before working there. Xavier Renegade Angel is one of the first 3D shows that made me go, "Oh wow, 3D is really awesome." I really didn't like 3D prior to some of the, like, this is a show specifically making fun of the 3D aesthetic, and Uncanny Valley is literally like one of the main bases of the show. So I had to make this reference. God, please send an angel, and then it's Xavier Renegade Angel, which is a very odd looking character with a snake for a hand. He has way too many nipples. It's like things like that. He has a bird beak, all sorts of nonsensical stuff. Getting Midjourney to make Xavier was nearly impossible. Like I had to redraw so much of this image here. Like I got a character with a snake for an arm. That was the only thing I got, and everything else is redrawn. Here's the thing about this. This is comic. It's not even really that funny to me, but what it is hyper exploitable. Okay, you could replace anybody in that window, and then suddenly you have a let me just pull up the actual template that was made for this comic. So I'm glad Reddit search actually works now. But if you notice here, I also got a lot of upvotes on this one because I made the official template for this comic and then gave Redditors the blank version of this comic. The number of Evangelion memes that I got in my inbox after doing this was ridiculous. Like there's just so many there's just so many kids that were like, okay, let's just put one of the angels from Evangelion, particularly the cube that's like screaming in Polygon or whatever. That meme easily blew this up. I think the last time I checked that I had like 13 million views on this one meme. Probably my most popular thing yet to date. But if I now come into here, there's also an anti-meme version of it, which is the depressing version of it. So there's an entire group of people that like making really depressing memes, right? And it's just literally nothing happens. Like literally God sent an angel and the window doesn't even break. Like that was the anti-meme version of this. Again, 3,000 upvotes for this, by the way. Like it's ridiculous what you can do with just making a relatable template that other people can inject their own jokes in because they want to be the funny guy, right? That's really what's happening here. So that's a little bit of like how this stuff works in terms of like people getting popular online, is that they will understand the mechanics of why things get popular. And for me, that mechanic was, oh, anything that they put in the window there, that's the punchline. They get to write their own punchline for this. An exploitable comic is literally we left the punchline blank so you could fill it in. So there you go. And I will say that that is it. We're getting close to 7 o'clock here, and I am feeling a little bit a little peckish. I probably should get something to eat relatively soon. But I really did appreciate you guys sitting down and working on these comics with me today. The main thing I want to kind of like point out while we're still here is that I'm gonna dig through all the results here because anytime you guys use Sage and Victor, I'm going to really dig into some of the stuff here. If you all do make anything like a comic, please send it to me. I will credit you. I'll make sure that you get the proper recognition that you deserve for it. And I take a lot of at least a lot of time to just acknowledge the fact that like this is going to hurt a lot of people in many different industries, right? My entire job, my entire entertainment business was on the idea that I was a creative consultant. Like what I have is special in the sense that I have experiences that other people don't, and that experience has value. But as soon as ChatGPT came out, my own personal value just significantly dropped for people because they could just ask the questions for free from a robot, and the robot was going to give them answers that honestly were perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with the answers that ChatGPT gives. So when I was looking at all this stuff, I was like, oh my God, like, okay, the world's about to like completely change and change in a way that a lot of people are going to be in denial about for a long time. And that denial has to do with intellectual property. It has to do with a sense of ownership that just won't exist anymore. And frankly, the consumers in general are going to be the ones who really dominate the narrative from here on out. You see that in my comics, where the people who are commenting on my stuff and I'm actively responding to them with generated images, maybe it's Sage, making fun of a commenter because they've responded back to me. They suddenly feel so much relation to Sage because they're talking to Sage like a real person, you know? And that to me is really where we have our superpower here, because we can basically say, okay, not only is this cartoon character a quote unquote real person that you can talk to, but it's going to be actively responding to you in real time. And once we get to that stage, it's going to be really hard for me to see modern entertainment excel. But that's just my 2 cents, and maybe I'm a little bit doomy about that, but that's my perspective.
Ooh. All right. Well, what are you gonna have to eat when you're done with this?
There's a solid sandwich that is waiting for me downstairs. I have a place near me that's like as if Subway was actually good and didn't taste like a hospital bed. Yeah, like
Oh,
it's so I yeah. One of my friends in Hollywood actually, he was like, okay, I can't eat at Subway, and I'm like, why? It's shitty food. I get that, but it's like, what? Why can't you eat it at all? And he's like, have you ever walked into a hospital, like a cafeteria in a hospital, and you notice that nothing smells like food? And I'm like, I don't have that experience, but I can imagine, just because everything has to be super sterile. And he's like, that's what a Subway smells like. And I'm like, oh man, oh man. That, like, he's like, when you walk into a sandwich shop, you should smell bread. You do not smell bread when you walk into a Subway. You
and
smell chemicals. You smell cleaning products. And I'm like, that's
the
gross.
weirdest part is that they bake their bread there, and it doesn't smell like bread.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like you would think, okay, maybe they're trying to kind of mask the amount of, like, corporate like policy and stuff that's making everything smell like cleaning products, but like, nope. It's just
Uh,
very, very empty food. There's nothing in there.
I've read that Subway bread has enough sugar in it to actually qualify as cake.
Oh, that's gross. Oh man.
Yeah.
But this is something where I really do appreciate you guys coming out and checking out my stream here on Midjourney. This was a lot of fun. Again, you feel free to go through VC Create and continue these stories. I really do want to see some interesting kind of prompts, but understand that you're only going to make the stories by constructing them. Like, you really need like Photoshop or something to like really create a proper narrative, because you need to write down words and stuff. But yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys make, and thank you guys so much for watching. But I wanted to thank you guys so much. Thank you, Princess, Brandon, Lizzie. Like, you guys are, recurring faces here, and I really, really do appreciate seeing all y'all. And just kind of hanging out. You know what I mean? Like, it's nice. I promise I'll be streaming on Twitch at some point this weekend. I'm aiming for Sunday to do a, like, maybe a Pokemon stream, and so we can kind of dabble into that and maybe do some non Midjourney stuff for a bit. So we'll see what we can do. But I really do dig doing the gaming streams too. So um awesome. Well, and Lizzie, thank you so much for coming. I want to see you every Friday for sure. You've been prompting great stuff with me. And Bob, of course, Bob. Bob was actually the first one to Bob's Blazed was the first one to make a comic and then send it to me with the cats in it. And so you could go to my Discord if you want to check out that. But all right, I'm gonna leave it here, guys. Thank you so much for checking everything out. And if you have anything else, please send it to me via. I have an email address. It's smashmouthbass@gmail.com. But also, I have a Discord, which you can find on my website, victorgnarly.com. That's where I generate most of. Hey, there it is. Thank you, Kiki. The If you join that, then you'll be able to share with me your comics, and I'll give you some constructive criticism or praise, or really really whatever you want. We'll hang out. Okay. Thank you so much to Kiki and Agent for hosting today.
Always. And as for me, I'll be downstairs in the voice chats like I usually am. And come to prompt battles on Sunday, damn it, if you haven't been to one.
Yeah,
It's
do
really
it.
fun.
Yeah. I'm imagining Midjourney like a big skyscraper right now, and you're just like running down the stairs in order to like get to
I
the
That's
next.
how I think of it too. I'm like, I'm gonna go, like, sometimes if I'm like not liking the conversation in one voice chat, I'm like, I'm gonna go upstairs. If I
That's
go to a
great.
different
Yeah.
server, I'm like, I'm in here now, and then I'm gonna go back out there.
Yeah, let's make a VR experience for Midjourney users, and it's just Midjourney as a singular place, and you have to physically go between the rooms. That would be fun. It would be fun to kind of see that baked into Discord too. So like you automatically switch rooms in your Discord channels based on which room you walk into in VR chat. That'd be neat.
When you're not in any
Um,
room, you're out in the hall.
exactly, exactly. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna let you all go. Thank you so much for joining today.